Hello, welcome back. Um, this is the second part of solving right triangles. In the first part, in the first video, we looked at significant digits, also known as significant figures, and we left off here with this relationship table. Um, and so if if the sides are two significant figures, then the angle will be to the nearest degree. If the sides have three significant figures, then we'll round the angles off to the nearest degree, tenth of a degree. So that's one decimal place. And if the sides are four significant figures, then we'll round off to the nearest hundredth of a degree. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with part two, solving triangles. And so here in this video, that's what we are actually going to do. Okay, and we're going to be referring to this table as we solve the missing parts of the right triangle. And this will help us decide how much to include as far as the digits go. Okay. All right, so solving triangles. Okay, so when they say solve the triangle, what they're saying is to find all the missing parts. So when you're solving a triangle, you're finding all of the missing parts. Okay, and remember, a triangle has three angles and three sides. Okay, so some things to consider. So make sure you know that the sum of the angles is 180. And remember, we use sine, cosine, tangent. Sine, cosine, tangent to find sides. So if we're missing a side, we can set up an equation using sine, cosine, or tangent. Okay. And then we use the inverse trig functions. We use sine inverse, cosine inverse, tangent inverse to find missing angles. Okay. Okay, and we saw a little bit of this in the last section. Okay, let's do this one example. Oh, and also I personally I like to draw the triangle. Draw the triangle and label it. Label the sides and angles. Okay. It just gives me a nice clear picture of what I do know and what I have to find and what relationships there are between those two things. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at this example here. In right triangle, ABC, A equals 40 degrees. C, little c, lowercase c, equals 12 centimeters. Okay. Find lowercase a, lowercase b, uppercase b. So remember, uppercase are angles and lowercase are the sides. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and draw this triangle. We generally let C be the 90-degree angle. Okay, and so opposite, this is A, this is little b. All right, so what do we know? We know that angle A is 40 degrees. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. Okay, and I know that side C is 12 centimeters. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. Okay, and I need to find lowercase a, lowercase b, and uppercase b. Uppercase b is this angle. So I'm going to use the fact that all the angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees, right? Okay, so over here, I know that 40 plus 90 plus b should equal to 180, right? Okay, so I get 130 plus b equals 180. Okay, so if I solve for b, I have to subtract 130 from both sides. Okay, and when I do that, I get that b, I guess we don't really need to put the degrees on b. Okay, b equals 50 degrees. Okay, so we found that. Okay, so we're done there. Okay, and now when I look at my triangle, here I'm going to put in the stuff that I'm solving for. I'm going to go ahead and put in green. Okay, so I know now this is 50. Okay, all right, so I still need to find lowercase a and lowercase b, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to do lowercase a first. Okay, so here I'm trying to solve for this missing side. I do know a, and I do have the opposite side to a, opposite and hypotenuse, right? I have opposite and I have hypotenuse. O, H. And hopefully you remember, maybe we should add that up here as well. Oops, not there. Okay. So maybe we should add this as well. SOHCAHTOA, if you don't have that memorized yet. Okay, so I have opposite. I'm trying to find opposite, and I have hypotenuse. So that would be sine. So I'm going to use the sine function on 40 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to use the sine function on 40 degrees. And we know that sine is opposite, which is little a, over hypotenuse, which is 12. Okay, and here I can solve for a. I just need to multiply both sides by 12, since that's division by 12. Okay, and then when you punch that into your calculator, you get 7.7 dot dot dot. Okay, so here, since we have our table up here, let's go back to this table. All right, so our sides are, let's go back, two significant digits, right? Our sides are two significant digits, okay? And so here, when I punch this into the calculator, my answer needs to have two significant digits. So I am going to do 7.7. Okay? Two significant digits, because this here kind of set the tone. Okay? All right. And then I need to find little b. Let me go ahead and put what I know here. A is 7.7. Okay. All right. I now need to find lowercase b, side B. And here, okay, so here's the thing. You have to find lowercase b, right? You can do opposite over hypotenuse. So that's the sine function, opposite over hypotenuse. But you also have a, okay, so you also have a. So you could do adjacent over hypotenuse, which is cosine, right? So you have two options here to find b, this b, lower b, okay? Oh, sorry. Let me do that over again. Okay, so over here, we're trying to find lowercase b, right? This, in relation to b, I have 50 degrees. There are a lot of different ways to solve for lowercase b, okay? If I use angle b, right? I'm going to write down all the different scenarios, okay? And we'll pick one. Okay, so if I use angle b, then I could do sine of 50 is little b over 12, right? If I continue to use b, I could also do cosine of 50 is a not cosine. I keep saying cosine. Okay. So we did b over 12. Another thing we can do is these two here, opposite over adjacent. So that's tangent. Tangent of 50 is opposite, which is b, over adjacent, which is 7.7. Okay, so that's one option. Okay, another option, I could actually use a, so I can use 40 degrees to find the b, and that would be adjacent. I could do adjacent over hypotenuse, and so then that would be cosine 40 is adjacent over hypotenuse. Or I can do this here. This here, I could do b over that, right? Which would be adjacent over that. Okay. And so I can do, what is that? Opposite and adjacent, that's tangent. I can do tangent of 40 degrees is opposite over adjacent. Okay, so we have all of these different ways to solve for b. Another way you can solve for b here is using Pythagorean theorem, right? You could do 7.7 plus b squared equals 12 squared. Okay, so we see here we have a bunch of different ways to solve for that last piece. Okay, which one is the correct one? They're all correct. Okay, but here's a little something to help guide you. Which one do you use, right? Okay, over here, if I use this one here, if I use sine of 50 degrees equals b over 12, right? Well, let's take a look. I found this 50 degrees, right? And I am 100% sure that I have that right, okay? Because these are very simple numbers, and I can see that it is correct, okay? However, sometimes the angles aren't this simple. Maybe you have decimals and whatnot, in which case you probably want to always, as much as possible, you want to use what's already been given. Because if you make a mistake here, then wherever you're using 50 degrees is going to be wrong as well. Okay. Same thing with this here. if you use 7.7, and let's say you got it wrong, you just did some accidental button punching on your calculator, and so you got 7.7 for A, right? If this is incorrect, right? If this is incorrect, then anytime you used A, anytime you use 7.7 here and here and here, it's going to be incorrect. Okay? So you always want to try to use what has been given. Okay? And so here, the best one out of all of these options would be this one here. Okay, so that's the point I was trying to make here. Okay, so let's go ahead and use the cosine 40 degrees. Cosine 40 degrees equals b over 12. Okay, and if we solve for b, multiply both sides by 12. So 12 times cosine 40 degrees equals b. I multiply because this is divide by 12. You do the opposite operation, which is multiply. Okay. All right. And then punch that into your calculator. This is also a side, and this one set the tone. Sides have to be two significant figures, 2 there. So B, I'm going to use 9.2. Okay. 2 significant figures. All right. Now, again, we use this one because this is what you're given, and so there's going to be less room for error. But you could use these if you're absolutely sure that you got these answers correct. Then feel free to use the other ones. But again, make sure your your first answer that you get, make sure everything is correct before you start using them. Okay, let's see. Let's do this one. In right triangle, ABC, lowercase a, 2.73, lowercase b, 3.41, find the missing sides and angles. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and draw our triangle and label. All right. So A, B, C, lowercase a, lowercase b, lowercase c. All right. Let's see. What do we know? Lowercase a, 2.73. Lowercase b, 3.41. Okay. So these are 3 significant figures. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right. So they are setting the tone. So let's take a look at our table. 3 significant figures on the sides. 3 significant figures. So our angles are going to be to the nearest 10th of a degree. That's 1 decimal point. Okay. All right. So 1 decimal point. Okay. So, all right. Let's see where to begin. Okay. So over here, let's start here with A. All right. So over here, with A, I have, this is angle A. I don't know it, so I'm going to try to find it. I do know the opposite side and the adjacent side. If you need to write SOHCAHTOA here to help you decide which ratio to use, you can do that. Okay, so I have opposite and I have adjacent. in relation to A. Opposite and adjacent, that would be tangent. So I'm going to use tangent. I'm going to use tangent of A equals opposite over adjacent. Okay. And here, so if you remember, when we are trying to find an angle, we use the inverse function. So A equals tangent inverse of 2.73 over 3.41. Punch that into your calculator, and you have to take, we said, 1 decimal place, because we need to have looking up here on the angles, if we have 3 significant figures on the sides, which we do, we need to round off to the nearest tenth of a degree. Okay, so here it is. So punching that into your calculator, we're going to get the nearest tenth of a degree. So you should get 38.7. That's the nearest tenth. Nearest tenth is 1 decimal place. Okay. All right. So let me fill that in with our table in our triangle. So this is 38.7 degrees. Okay. Let's go ahead and do B. Okay. B. Okay. So B, I also have opposite and adjacent, right? So I could also use tangent. Tangent B equals opposite 3.41 over adjacent 2.73. And then to solve for an angle, we use tangent inverse 3.41 over 2.73. And again, we want 1 decimal place. We need to go the nearest tenth of a degree. So when you punch that into your calculator, you will go ahead and take up to that much, 51.3 degrees. Okay. All right. And then here for letter C, I have 2 sides. Okay. So you could use Pythagorean theorem. Okay, let's get out our calculator. You can use your phone calculator. That is fine. And remember, if you're going to use your phone calculator, you need to turn it sideways. Okay, so what do we have here? All right, so 2.73 squared plus 3.41 squared equals c squared. Okay, so 2.73 squared, we get 7.4529, and then 3.41 squared, 3.41 squared is 11.6281. That equals to c squared. Okay, and then go ahead and add these together. So and you should get 19.081 equals c squared. And now we're going to go ahead and take the square root of both sides to solve for c because we don't want c squared, we want c. All right, and so take the square root and you should get you get a long string of numbers, right? But remember, the sides are 3 significant digits, so you should get 4.3 and then 7. Okay, we're going to stop it there because we only want 3 significant digits, just like here and here. Okay, so those would be your 3 answers. Okay, all right, why don't you try one? And again, so long as you get your first answers correct, any of the ways you want to find the other missing parts will be up to you. It's just a suggestion, a recommendation to use the stuff that's given to you because there will be less room for error. Okay, all right, so go ahead and try this one. Solve the right triangle. If A equals 50 degrees and lowercase c equals 14 centimeters. I'll have you try 2. Just make sure you're comfortable. Okay, give this one a try. Work it all out. You're going to find all the missing parts. Okay, so you need to find B, A, and little b. Okay. All right, hit the pause button and come right back. All right, so we're going to go ahead and draw the right triangle. Label it A, B, C. We know that A is 50. And so B, we know 50 plus B plus 90 equals 180. We get 140 plus B. I'm going to take this degree off of the B. Equals 180. Subtract 140. B equals 40 degrees. Okay, so we have that. Okay. I'm going to put it in green to keep track of what I'm given and what I'm solving for. Okay, so we have that. Oh, I forgot to put down C is 14. C, lowercase c is 14. And this is my little a, my little b. Okay, C equals 14 from right up here in the problem. Okay. All right. Okay, so I need to find little a, little b. All right, I'm going to start off with this one here. Again, SOHCAHTOA. All right, so here I have this angle, and I have opposite and hypotenuse. Opposite and hypotenuse. That would be sine. Okay, so sine of 50 degrees is opposite, which is lowercase a, over a hypotenuse, which is 14. Okay, multiply both sides by 14 to solve for a. Okay, and my sides, this is setting the tone. The side is 2 significant digits. So a, when I punch that in, I only want 2 significant digits. So I will get 11 here. 2 significant digits there. All right, so A equals 11. Okay. And let's get lowercase b. All right. Lowercase b, I can use angle A again since that's the one that was given. And now I'm dealing with adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay. All right. Adjacent over hypotenuse, that would be cosine. Okay. So cosine 50 degrees equals adjacent over hypotenuse 14. Okay. Multiply both sides by 14. 14 times cosine 50 degrees equals B. And again, this one set the tone, two significant digits. So 1, 2, 1, 2. And this one, when you punch this into your calculator, you only want two significant digits. Okay, so lowercase b will be 9, but you need two significant digits. So we're going to say 9.0 equals b. Okay, because we still want two significant digits. Okay, so that is this one. All right, let me give you one more to try. Solve the right triangle. Solve the right triangle. Solve the right triangle, ABC, if A equals 3.54, so that's three significant digits, and B equals 5.12. All right, so we have three significant digits for our sides. So let's go look at that table to see how many our angles need to be. All right. All right, so we have our sides are three significant figures. So here, our angles need to be nearest tenth of a degree. So we need to just go one decimal place. All right, one decimal place for the angle. Okay, so we are going to find A, B, and lowercase c. All right, let's draw our right triangle. Here's A, B, C. This is little a, little b, and little c. Okay, I know little a is 3.54. I know little b is 5.12. Okay, and so go ahead and hit the pause button if you haven't. And go ahead and work this one out. And then come back and see if you got the right answer. Okay? Okay. All right, so if you worked it out, I'm going to go ahead and write the answers here because if you got these answers, then you don't have to watch me work this one out. Okay, so capital A, you should get 34.7 degrees. Uppercase B, 55.3 degrees, and lowercase c, 6.22. Okay. All right. And again, three significant digits because these guys are setting the tone. Sides have to be three significant digits, and therefore the angles have to be rounded to the nearest tenth of a degree, which these are. Okay. All right. So if you did not get these answers, then stick around and watch how I do this. If you got these answers, then you are free to go start on your assignments. Okay, and remember, your assignments are on WebAssign, not on Canvas. Okay. All right. So here, let's take a look at how we are going to find, let's do angle A. Okay, so angle A is over here. We have opposite and adjacent. Here, I'm going to write SOHCAHTOA up on top here. Okay, so I said we have opposite and adjacent. Opposite and adjacent would be this here, that's tangent. Okay, so tangent of A is opposite 3.54 over adjacent, which is 5.12. And to solve for an angle, we use, if we're trying to solve for this angle A, we use tangent inverse 3.54 over 5.12. Okay, and then when you punch that into your calculator, you should get 34.7 degrees when you round off to one decimal place, because we have three significant digits, means according to that table at the very top, this has to be 1/10 of a degree. Okay, so we got 34.7. Let me fill that in. 34.7. All right, I'm going to do B, angle B. All right, so angle B is over here. And again, I have opposite and adjacent, so I'm going to do tangent. So tangent of B is opposite. This time opposite is 5.12, and adjacent is 3.54, okay? And if I want to solve for angle B, I use the tangent inverse on 5.12 over 3.54. And then punching that into your calculator, you should get 55.3. Make sure you're in the correct mode when you're solving for angles and when you're doing all these trig functions. Make sure you are in degree mode, okay? All right, and then the last part here, you can use Pythagorean theorem to solve for C, okay? Let me put in 55.3 right in there, okay. All right, so we can use Pythagorean theorem here, 3.54 squared plus 5.12 squared equals to C squared, okay? And let me get my calculator out. All right, 3.54 squared. And you should get 12.5316. You don't want to round off here. You want to round off your final answer, not the numbers you're getting in the middle of your process. Because if you start rounding off too early, then by the time you get down to here, your answer is going to be less precise. Okay, so don't round off just yet. And then 5.12 squared, 26.214 equals C squared. Okay, so we'll go ahead and add those two together. And okay, when you add these together, you get 38.746 equals C squared. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and take the square root of both sides to get the C by itself. We're canceling out that square. And when you take the square root of this, you end up with 6.224628503, right? But we want three significant digits because the B and the A's kind of set the tone for 3. So 6.22. Okay, so those are the three answers, and that's the work that you need to do to get them. Okay, all right, that is it. If you are having trouble understanding some of this, make sure you email me or text message me or visit the Math Study Center. You can also get online tutoring as well. Just click on the Net Tutor button and click on the course. Okay. I will see you next time.